So here's Brad, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Brad. How's it going?
It's going all right. Been having
Eh,
we're gonna have a party today in my work, so I'm pretty excited about that. Uh,
Awesome.
going to the beach in a few days.
Oh, nice. That'll
There's
be nice.
this town. It's about 2 hours from Beijing, but there is a part of the Great Wall that connects to the ocean there.
Oh,
It's
wow.
pretty cool. I'm gonna go there and take some photos.
That'll be really cool, actually.
Going to Shanghai maybe 2 weeks from now, and then to Hong Kong.
Wow. Oh, nice. Yeah. Do you have to drive or
Just take train.
train? Nice. That's very nice. Yay.
How's it going with you?
Pretty good. Can't complain, I guess. We've been getting the PI on Rick Allen's defense team has finally been able to talk. She got she got falsely accused of really weird charges of animal abuse, and they made her like turn herself in and stuff, and that happened in December, and it didn't get resolved until just now.
Who charged
So
her with this?
what's that?
Who filed the charges?
ISP.
Indiana State Police.
Yeah, Indiana State Police. They've like the House
That was
didn't even. What was that?
they filed the charges through the Indiana Attorney General in December.
I believe so. I'm not as good at that kind of stuff as you.
All right. You said it got resolved last month.
Yeah, it got, yep, late July.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, if we're following the timeline here, that was when the regime change happened in the Indiana FBI office.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
recall, they put the new agent in charge in June.
Okay.
I'm not saying there's a connection, but it kind of looks like maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because wasn't it right around 4th of July that they were like, yeah, we're going back to Flora and we're like,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, and they
But
also Greg Ferenczi.
yeah, and Greg Ferenczi, of course, rest in peace. But basically, do you want to kind of like give a little bit of your background and then maybe talk about some of the cool stuff that you've been doing? Because you've been doing a lot of cool stuff with the people back in Kentucky.
Yeah, so my name's Bradley Blankenship. I'm an investigative journalist, author, political analyst. I've also been a columnist for quite some time. I've lived around the world in several places. I lived in the Czech Republic for about 6 years, which was where I learned about when I was there. Like in the Eastern Bloc, I learned Russian and traveled around the Eastern Bloc mostly when I lived in Europe. So I learned a lot about authoritarianism, surveillance states, and civilizational collapse when I was there, which informed a lot of my political analysis at the time when what I was viewing in the United States. Whenever I traveled back, I'd be like, yeah, this kind of seems a lot like USSR late stage.
Mm,
A lot of other people have been saying that. I've seen Jeffrey Sachs recently said that he thought the U.S. political system was going to collapse soon. Um,
same.
And a lot of the work that I'm doing now is about anti-corruption, but it's also a little bit more than that. I mean, if you look at my Substack and the first post, I have a political manifesto that I put. Now, I know this term manifesto always is
Yeah.
associated with domestic terror, but really,
Yeah.
it was more of a philosophical indictment of the whole situation, which is actually similar to what President Obama said, that we're having an epistemic crisis in America. And what I've come to find out, studying the history of philosophy, is that the first thing that happens when a civilization collapses is first there's a cognitive breakdown. People can't tell what's real, and then language collapses, and then governments collapse. There's a historical thing there. And what I come to find out last year when I returned to the United States is that there's a complete systemic breakdown in my local community in northern Kentucky. So my uncle is named William Blankenship. He was charged with sex crimes in Ohio and Cincinnati in 2020. I was living in Europe at the time, and that was about a 4-year investigation that wrapped up February of last year. So there was a bunch of rapes and a bunch of other crimes tied to my uncle. And when that case progressed, I mean, I knew that there was other things tied to this, but like I'm not a member of law enforcement. It's not my job and it's not my responsibility. I was like
Right.
23
Mm-hmm.
or so this is 5 years ago. So I was 24 when that all went down. I'm just trying to live my life, surviving that family.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you go through a really traumatic childhood like I did, you don't remember a lot of this stuff until later because it's all repressed. And especially for me, you're surviving that. Like I was just trying to, develop. I clearly had a lot of emotional problems and developmental issues. So I was living my life, but it all hit another level, let's say last year when I returned. And my uncle, he got convicted in Kentucky. So he had interstate crimes. He was living in Kentucky and he had raped women and girls in Cincinnati and also in Kentucky. That case concluded. The facts of that case, as I looked into it, many of them were obfuscated by law enforcement. So I looked into it. I'm like, okay, well, we see a clear racketeering structure because Commonwealth's attorney lied about several of the facts. They buried many of the facts. They are continuing to bury the facts. I'm in a legal battle right now with the city attorney of one city involved in my uncle's case. They're trying to bury evidence related to him because I know I caught them in many contradictions. And they had felony evidence of my father and refused to charge him. But when I was there last year, I was getting threats for talking about the past. So obviously when you're getting threats telling you to shut up tied to a high profile serial offender, it means somebody's probably hiding something. It doesn't really take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So I talked to many different police forces and all of them basically told me in one way or another to get fucked. And I got retaliated against, but I'm a journalist and I'm good at what I do. And I'm the kind of person that's like, I don't really I just call balls and strikes. I don't have any loyalties to anybody but the truth. So people are retaliating against me in law enforcement. I just record everything.
Good.
And as I continued for several months, I tied my father to the unsolved 2011 murders of Bill and Peggy Stephenson. He has not been cleared after about 10 months now. So what does that tell us? And the fact that everybody locally in Northern Kentucky is freaking out. People, they basically tried to disappear me, and people who seek records related to me are getting threats from the police. So what does that tell us? That's, under international law, this is enforced disappearance. This is a crime against humanity. They're trying to get rid of me and to erase the memory of me. This is like a double murder. This is my body and my soul,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's a really crazy situation that we're in now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's continuing. So in response to all of this, because it's, the thing about the law is it's not just about one person. Like I could walk away, I'm safe here, I could live my life, but it's going to happen to someone else. And when you experience things like this, you have I think a moral obligation to stand up and say, listen, I'm not going to allow this to happen, because if they're going to try to do something like that to me, I don't think the average citizen has a chance, because I'm really fluent in law and journalism and psychology. So I formed a local Citizens Action Committee, which we turned into a Truth and Accountability Project. I mean, we basically started like a core resistance group, and now we're doing like a living truth commission. Actually, I don't even think anybody's ever done it. Usually this happens post-mortem. They dig up state crimes when the state has collapsed, but we're doing it now, collaborating with other agencies and so on. Okay. And that happened in March. And at the end of June, we got our first arrest. The vice president of the Campbell County Fraternal Order of Police. He's charged with illegal voting, because he was voting allegedly illegally for 14 years, even though he's a registered sex offender. So we are finding a pattern. There was a recent killing at the end of July. So just a few days ago, there was a woman, her name was Anita Calhoun. And her partner was accused, according to not the media in Cincinnati has dropped the ball. I don't know if you guys saw that attack of that crowd attacking those, I think they were Russian people actually. But that caused a really major national scandal. And the media in Cincinnati is dropping the ball. They're not reporting the facts, And so what happened with this case with Anita Calhoun and her partner, John Lawyer, is that, according to the comment section, which I trust far more now at this point, is that they have a kid, and he was accused of sexually assaulting this child. He was in jail for that, allegedly. I haven't looked at all the court documents at this point. I'm having trouble getting them because they're trying to erase my legal status as I'm abroad, which is a major federal issue now. And so he was in jail. He got let out for lack of evidence. she had an EPO on him, and apparently he violated it, tried to get into her house. She killed him, and now the police in Florence, Kentucky are charging her with murder. So she has apparently no right to self-defense, is what is being communicated here with this instance.
Yeah.
And we are tracking all of these cases, and we're finding a clear pattern that predators are being protected, not as an aberration, but as a matter of the governing logic of the regime in Northern Kentucky. And that is the exact same thing that helped my father evade justice for 14 years, because my grandfather, his father, was the treasurer of the Campbell County Fraternal Order of Police. In other words, he had control over people's pensions. That's a lot of power in the police force, you know? And it is my belief that he helped, well, I know this to be true, he helped my uncle evade justice. My uncle was a drug dealer. This is intelligence known by the Northern Kentucky Drug Strike Force. I have the intelligence report on my computer right now. This is public information. And my uncle also had a 13-year-old victim that he lived with for a decade. My grandfather knew about that. According to a confession that I have from my father, everyone knew about it. So this is like, it was all happening in broad daylight. And we're seeing a pattern emerge. And I posted this on X. I won't give a ton of details about this or speculate too much on it, but the Central Intelligence Agency is now monitoring my Substack. You know, I think we can understand why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But this is a major issue, you know, and we're seeing a pattern emerge. I've had many people say, "Oh, I don't believe you." It's like, it doesn't fucking matter if you believe me or not. These are facts. These are legal facts.
Right, exactly.
We are finding people. The pattern is being tracked, and there's a lot of people who want me to shut up. I'm getting a lot of threats on my emails from people posing as federal agents, and I'm like, that's not how that works.
No. Hi, Lori. So Curious Chickpea has a question. Do you guys know what day Coy Cox is done and who is replacing him? I do not. Do you know?
I don't know specifically what day, and I think that he never made a public appearance announcing this to purposely obfuscate that.
Okay.
That's my interpretation. I think that he is skirting that precisely because he doesn't want that to be public information right now.
Okay.
Who's replacing him? He has a partner in the cold case division.
Okay.
I don't remember that guy's name. I've never spoken.
I don't either. I think it was like Tim something, but
it's definitely Tim. That's right. Tim's son. Yeah. Well, I don't know who's going to be replacing them. That department, I'll tell you that sheriff's department's got a lot more. You know, in terms of staffing, they're going to have a lot more issues than just Coy Cox. I would reckon to posit here because of the issues that we found within their department.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have no idea about that. I can try to find out at some point.
Yeah, you're pretty busy. You're pretty busy.
For them right now is stonewalled, and they're very afraid.
Yeah. Well, and I think that what you've stirred up in Northern Kentucky has reverberated all the way up to North Central Indiana, which is fantastic, actually. So,
I think that's probably true. I don't have any information concrete tying that, but I mean, in terms of like a legal statement, but in terms of like intelligence, I would say that that's probably true given the reactions that I've seen on the ground from people, and especially some of the threats that I'm receiving. I mean, there was one anonymous person sending me emails for about a month, and they just started again. This individual, it's really fascinating because they don't realize how much they're giving away with their statements to me, and how much they're essentially building a really robust profile, connecting them to various crimes that we're looking at. In fact, we've already identified the main suspect. They think they're anonymous, and this is quite funny. So I think that there's going to be a lot more coming out from that.
Good.
Kind of the social terrain around that individual, tying them to a few other people who, I don't know. I'm not going to get too much into that, but yeah, I think it's going to come out.
Yeah. So Joe Schmo says, any thoughts about a possible systemic corruption issue in the Mickey Steins case? Now, I think Mickey Steins was the sheriff that shot the judge.
This is also in Kentucky, right?
I believe so.
So I don't know anything about this local jurisdiction, but what I'll say is that what I found to be the case, and what the Department of Justice has also found to be the case, and what other civil rights attorneys have found to be the case, is that Kentucky's anti-corruption investigators are totally unreliable. In fact, the Kentucky State Police are from what I understand, they're supposed to be the ones who are policing this. But there was a case in March, which Adrian, you know about. There was 3 officers, KSP in Louisville, who were charged with civil rights violations, systematic civil rights investigations, looking at like between 15 and 25 years in prison. And that there was a civil suit that even implicated the commissioner of the Kentucky State Police. That's a person that answers directly to Governor Andy Beshear. So this is a top political appointee. And, when you have the commissioner of the state police implicated in systemic corruption, I mean, I don't understand how anybody could ever trust Kentucky law enforcement to actually police themselves. And so what we found to be the case, I mean, is like, it's basically a state of exception. Like the rule of law does not exist in Kentucky in any meaningful way. Mm-hmm. From what I have seen, I will not, I mean, I don't know. Nobody's told me how to say this, but I think it's probably better that I don't. There is an investigative division within Kentucky that now is taking a larger role in this. I think that I know why that is the case. I think it will be public soon. And I do commend their efforts for this. And I personally want to be a part of, mapping the train in Kentucky for this. But like, from what I've seen to be the case, Kentucky's law enforcement at the state level, not even just local. I mean, local jurisdictions, if they are compromised, tend to stay compromised because of the very fact that at the state level, the Kentucky State Police are like a total dumpster fire. And I've heard repeatedly across jurisdictions and from various whistleblowers, people criticizing the Beshear administration. Now, it's also interesting to note that he's apparently the most popular Democratic mayor in the country right now. And he's trying to make a bid for president. But like, in terms of his actual governing ability, I don't see it because he's not able to rein it in. And there's much to be said about that. Governor Andy Beshear, I mean, I won't really go into that, but like he has so many compromising details. He used to be the attorney general for some years before he was governor. His father was governor. So, make of that what you will.
Yeah.
There are reports from NGOs about some deals that he did with his father when he was a private citizen. His father was governor. There's just so much to be said about Kentucky's entire legal political machine. But I think that, like, personally, what I would like to see is there to be some kind of joint state and federal anti-corruption commission.
Okay.
I would like to see Andy Beshear and President Donald Trump put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, me too.
Charge people like myself and others who really care about this issue. But I think like what can be said broadly about any corruption case in Kentucky is the lack of state oversight. But again, it does appear that there is a investigative unit now quite active in this, and I think that's good. Also, I also want to say this. I kind of looked at the numbers here. Kentucky is one of the states that has the most federal investigations. So the rest of the country is financing policing Kentucky because it can't get its shit together. You know what I mean?
Wow.
FBI public integrity is really active in Kentucky. In fact, FBI public integrity task force, their division was the one who handled the KSP case.
Wow.
So it's like, and just in terms of public safety and actually using federal dollars correctly, I think that, there needs to be a serious effort about corruption in Kentucky. Because I personally, I mean, look, I just got exiled in fucking China, and this is having a potential strain on diplomatic relations.
Yeah.
Let me also reference one of my Substack pieces, the one I wrote, Philosophy of Defiance. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was criticizing transnational repression, so-called, by the Hong Kong government against Hong Kong people in the United States. I have a lot of Twitter followers. I have about 2,000 followers, and I just retweeted. I was like, "What about me?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
This is what did all of the downstream surveillance now with my Substack. You see the cause and effect here. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah.
So it's sensitive, but this is not on me. I'm allowed as an American citizen to exercise my right to free speech. The problem is the fact that Kentucky law enforcement, for some reason, thought it was wise to go after a reporter, handing him the most nuclear corruption case potentially in American history, and jettison him to China. I mean, you know what I mean? This is just stupid.
Yeah.
Profoundly stupid.
Mm-hmm. It's good though that like, well, I don't know how good it is, but that they are keeping an eye on you, I guess.
Well, I can be good or bad.
I know, yeah. I'm like, I don't really know what to make of that. But the fact that like you've told people that they're watching you is at least like, you know, I think it's
Well,
always good.
the fact is that they were clearly watching me the entire time.
Hmm.
It's just that the signal came out, and the signal is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I try not to myself personally when I in my investigations and so on, I try not to make too much of like any noise or any signal until patterns are established, you know, because it's not good to speculate too much.
That's fair. That's good.
I tell a
Yeah.
lot of people in Kentucky now who are cooperating with me, I tell them like, you know, they'll like see something and I'll be like, before they jump to conclusion, I'm like, hey, let's wait and see how this pans out. You know, let's keep.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's a good, that's a good rule to live by, I think. So, um, yeah, I see that you just posted on Substack too. I'll definitely have your Substack in here for people to check out.
A lot of people like it's only I only have like 44 subscribers, and there's like a ton of people who are just like going off about it.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, yeah, people start off somewhere.
It's for an archive. I've said that we're archiving history real time for posterity.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. That needs to be done. That's kind of what I told Prof too. I was like, every time this happens, as long as you have a good detailed article with receipts out on it, you're leaving you're leaving a story of what happened and documenting it. So, yeah.
Actually, as I've been finishing my memoir, I realized I've been leaving behind contemporaneous writing about a lot of really important stuff for like since I was 16. Now, I was just starting to write back then, so it wasn't as if I was writing a detailed memo to federal law enforcement, you know, at that time. It was like you can see, like I would be writing poetry or something, and you can see when you examine it alongside the evidence or alongside the pattern of facts, you see a reaction to what is happening. You see like essentially what uplifts that. Like most memoirs are retrospective, like, oh, this is what happened, here's what I felt. Mine is like, this is an entire investigation with every point backed by evidence, which is actually really incredible. So it is important to do that. I tell everybody who's involved in even, you know, true crime or journalists or anything, like fucking document everything. Keep a note about everything, every interaction, everything, because you never know what that will, you know, what it could be useful for in the future. I'm not talking about getting compromise on people or, you know, like getting using stuff against people or blackmail. I'm talking about like you interact with power anytime in your life, make sure that you document what was said.
Right. Exactly.
There's a few investigations that we're running right now, which I think will yield some results soon, that we just basically been using that tactic. Essentially, if I can give the best description of what we're doing at NKTAP, it is essentially running counterintelligence on corrupt officials.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
We go in there. This is exactly what federal law enforcement does. We go in there, we give them evidence tied to a known predator, probably protected or whatever, we don't know. We give them a fair opportunity to do the right thing and to act on the evidence. We record them, and if they don't, we use that as evidence to go to a higher authority and say, look at these people are protecting criminals.
Yeah.
You know, it's very simple. Exactly what the FBI does.
It'd be cool to learn from you so that we could set up something for Indiana. I don't live there, but
that's also the point of my art. I mean, I have a lot of private memos and papers that I write about all this stuff because I think it's not really it wouldn't be safe or even good to put this into the public sphere yet. A lot of this you can already find in FBI white papers,
Yeah.
but in terms of the general structure and so on, that's the whole point of my Substack. Like when everything gets big, I'm just like, people are gonna have any questions, they're like, just go look at my fucking Substack.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's already there.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I recall I put a lot of the doctrine also in my manifesto.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was very well laid out too. But yeah, um, there was a conflicting issue with another stream going. So I think there's a guy, ACV really wanted to ask you a lot of questions. I think his stuff was gonna be more big picture, like the interconnectedness of corruption and, probably the different ideologies behind it if we were to go down that. But I mean,
Mm.
would you say that your family was ideological in any way? As far as like, some of the nefarious things that they got up to. Um, did you notice any like cult like behavior or anything?
Well, in terms of like ideology, the only, like my grandfather, he was a Mason. He was a Freemason. But also a lot of law enforcement and other people in Northern Kentucky are members of, Freemasons or Rotary Club or something like this. They're all part of, some boys club kind of thing, some closed membership. I don't take that to be any sort of conspiracy. I think that's just how people are in Northern Kentucky. For better.
Sorry, my cat's gonna be loud. But so Joe Schmo, thank you, Joe, for the questions. Thank you, everybody, for the questions. He asked, do you ever question your commitment to challenging authority because of fear of retaliation? What is the balance between fear and your sense of justice and reporting?
So no, I don't really ever actually question my commitment to challenging authority. For me, I think that living with dignity, even if for a short time, is much better than living for a long time in fear or living a lie. Because I lived a lie for about 28 years. So I was repressing a lot of stuff, and my health and my happiness. I mean, I couldn't even leave the house. I was so deep into my own psychological projections. I pretty much couldn't leave the house. I was so afraid of people and stuff. And I knew that this was happening. I just didn't know how to break out of it. Now I see the world, I think, exactly as it is. I have a very grounded view of things. I'm emotionally stable. I'm feeling good. And what is sad about that is I'm in significantly more danger, but I feel better. It's like it's a strange thing. When you're a person who's carrying very unbearable truth for a family or even a community or something, like, they always turn on you. This is the danger of speaking truth in a world built on lies. And every era is built on lies. And so it's unfortunate, but it's like, I just choose radical acceptance now. That is my life. And I would rather just be me and be the person that I am than live a falsehood. But also in this case, living a falsehood would also make me an accessory to murder, which I talked about. And it would also make me a racketeer, which I'm unwilling to do. So, that's why I mentioned a lot Václav Havel, who was the first president of free Czechoslovakia. He talked about living in the truth. And he talked about that's how you become a political dissident. It doesn't happen because you choose it and you're like some radical guy. There's a lot of people in America that, are just rebels without a cause, or these even like ideologically aligned people who are stirring up shit. But a real dissident is a person who just refuses to lie, to live within the truth. And that's what I'm doing. It's like, people are calling me mentally ill. They're calling me this and that. I'm like, man, I don't know what to tell you. Your whole life is a lie. Like, what you believe about our community, it is not factually grounded. Like, it is a fact that we have had rampant corruption tied to organized crime. This is a historical fact. If you don't accept that basic premise, we cannot have a conversation rooted in reality. And then when you look at the institutional memory and the clear racketeering structure, and you look at what's happened, and then you look at the evidence that I have tied to my father and our family history, the conclusion really only goes one way. And if you're unwilling to have that conversation, then you're not living in reality. And the fact that people have to realize is that truth always fucking wins. It doesn't matter like what people think. It's like not about opinions. Like there is actual truth. And what I've come to understand studying the history of philosophy, it's like there is truth here, and then there's like politics here. And people debate about how to allocate resources and this and that. That's politics, and that's fair enough. We should have these debates. You know, we should talk about our society. But there are immutable, mathematical, logical, legal truths. And those things, they don't go away. You know, they get pushed off. They might cause some, you know, suffering, and they might cause some discomfort, but they don't go away. And so I see myself really just as the bearer of that, and it's going to be quite uncomfortable for the community. It's going to make people question everything, but that is really not my responsibility.
Right.
In terms of retaliation, yeah, I am afraid of. Well, I'm not afraid, but I anticipate. I know for a fact that there will be retaliation.
Yeah.
It is simply my job to map the terrain, understand that the best that I can to defend myself. But like I'm safe here in my home host country right now. I want to go back to the United States at some point, but I'm also willing to detach completely if people are simply unable to acknowledge what's happened here.
Right. Going back to like what you said with everybody ignoring what your uncle had got up to, do you think that's because like, do you think they also protect each other because they're also compromised, and that your uncle may have like dirt on them, kind of stuff?
I'm not sure necessarily that people have dirt, so to speak. I think that could be the case, and I think that's quite likely to be the case. But what I've noticed is that like people really realize that once one domino, I mean, this is why corrupt systems are really fragile, why they are a carefully managed illusion. And once you start to take one little piece of it, the whole thing comes down. You know, they're very fragile. My conflict right now with one city in Kentucky is quite interesting because I was simply looking for my own fucking police interview that I gave to this police department, and they are fighting me on it. They don't want to give it to me. There's only 2 detectives named in it. And the entire city, the police chief, city clerk, police clerk, attorney, everybody's saying a bunch of lies to protect this one detective. And I'm like, why are you people doing this? Like, do you not have families? Do you not like care about your freedom? Why are they doing that? Because they know as soon as one thing happens, it's all going to happen. You know what I mean? It's because that's how it always happens with collapse. It's like little by little and then all at once, boom. Because they know this is going to be a really serious scandal. I am not like I might be the first one looking into it, but I will not be the last one. This will be talked about for years, most likely, and people are going to dig through everything. And I told them, I was like, I would honestly advise you to just cooperate with like anybody who comes your way because it's not going to look good.
Right.
So they realize that like you have one thing, it snowballs, and they all protect each other to try to cover up their reputation. But it's like all fear. And the sad part is that the more obstruction you see, the more panic, etc., the more lies. In fact, I'm dealing with Attorney General Russell Coleman right now with them over this, and I got a response from them, and they accused me of making threats. What were the threats that I made? I presented the timeline of facts to them, and I advised them what I thought to be their legal consequences because I saw a racketeering pattern facts, and they called that a threat. And I'm like, if you think facts are threat, that's an admission of guilt. That's called consciousness of guilt in legal terms. That is what you have just demonstrated. This is ridiculous. So the more that we get like people sending letters like this and showing panic and trying to intimidate civilians, and like it's like it's only going to make it worse.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like the thing I realized. Like it's like not necessarily got to be this overt conspiracy where somebody has like, oh, I got a picture of this guy with a underage girl or something like that. It's more like they just know that like if it blows up, it's going to blow everyone up. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's going to be like, okay, well, what did you know when you could have done something? And what did you know? And who knew what when? Well, guess what? I've already mapped it all out. Great. Because I already know who knew everything when. Because basically what happened in my investigation was like, okay, I'm investigating my father because he's clearly hiding something. All right, the police are shielding him. Okay, well, now I'm investigating the entire government. This is great. I mean, it's scary, but it's also like, if you're a journalist, this is right. Like, you're like, this is awesome. Okay, now it's the anti-corruption case. And then as I went out to civil society to the journalists, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why are the journalists not covering this? This is a really big scandal. And I'm like, oh my God, now I'm investigating them. And I go to lawyers, and now I'm like investigating them, and I'm like investigating everybody. Now I'm like, this is a full this is a counter fucking terror operation now, basically. Like, this is a counter regime operation.
Yeah.
An entire like criminal ecosystem. And then after that, I was like, okay, let me go talk to civil society. I mean, just random civilians. Well, why are they acting like this? Oh, now we can study group psychology about, like regime logic and all of this stuff. This is fascinating to me.
Wow. Yeah.
And essentially, at that point, I realized that, like, there's so much research here, but it maps exactly as you would expect when you study the Third Reich or the Soviet Union or Czechoslovakia, all these regimes. And I'm like, holy fuck, dude.
Right.
This is actually so much, but it's not like, I think that we've had some private conversations talking about this. There's a lot of people involved in Delphi or the Stevens case talking about plants and talking about, some kind of conspiracies and stuff, but it really doesn't need to be that complicated. It's really more of like the archetypal pattern through history of totalitarian regimes. And essentially, that's what has happened to government. And so these governments always throughout history are very, very fragile. They are allergic to truth precisely because the truth would collapse them immediately. So that's basically what's happening.
Yep.
And I would wager that from what I haven't looked too much into Carroll County, Indiana, but I would wager to bet you have a similar pattern there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the people that live there would tell you. Yeah.
Like, that's probably, and also Carroll County is much smaller than Northern Kentucky. So those good old boy networks, there's a lot of secrets there.
Yeah, there are.
One person falls, it all falls. I think that this probably, when I was writing my memoir, 2018 was a very, very serious inflection point for Northern Kentucky because Tim Nolan got sentenced for human trafficking. He was a former Campbell County judge.
Yep.
And then Linda Talley Smith lost her election because of basically prosecutorial misconduct. That all happened, I remember now, within like a few weeks.
Okay.
And, that was an inflection point, but they had managed to absorb the situation through the election and then sending Tim Nolan to prison. But now this time, the mistake that they made is that they did all this in a full fucking view of a reporter who has no allegiance to them whatsoever.
Yeah. Yep.
Joe Schmo, I think the reason that is the case is that, like, corruption and totalitarian systems, all that, like, they behave really like you don't need to teach people how to do this. They do it naturally. You know what I mean? You see the same psychological patterns of repression and projection and stuff. It's like the brain does this naturally. So you don't need to have overt conspiracy and coordination. People just do it unconsciously, and it's a deeply human, deeply historical pattern. So I think that explains it. Now, I would guess, given the overt hostility we're seeing, also they've self-admitted that there is coordination. Like, I wrote about this, so I can say it. I wrote a piece about this, that apparently Coy Cox is giving some form of information to sleuths up in Indiana. So, I mean, this is actually direct evidence of some level of coordination. I don't know what they're talking about. We would have to do discovery in a formal legal process to get that. But they have, again, like I said, self-admitted. And also, once called out on it, they've shifted their behavior in such a way that suggests consciousness of guilt. So I'm quite fascinated to see what we uncovered there. I think Coy Cox might be the link there because of the fact that they've admitted this openly. But in terms of some kind of like coordination on how they've structured their government and so on, I think it's just actually a natural human impulse to go toward authoritarian tactics when the regime is under threat from truth. This tends to be like a law of political economy, that the state becomes more rigid when it becomes more criminal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and like when I was researching the plant epidemic and stuff, like there's this thing called emergent behavior,
Yeah.
and it's like
It's like mob psychology, like it just emerges,
yeah,
like
yep.
people just,
They kind
I
of fall into it. Yeah.
right. I kind of went in this direction in that piece I wrote. It's like, you notice that with the Delphi murders, I mean, there's, because of the fact that that murder was mishandled by the state, and the state had confused people by botching the investigation and abandoning like epistemic legitimacy, like the case against Richard Allen is so flimsy, they essentially invite conspiracies.
Yeah.
And they also invite people who are a little bit mentally unbalanced and so on to project a bunch of stuff onto it. So I've tried to introduce nuance into this debate, and I've tried to just state what I know, and people immediately attack me
Yeah.
without any
Yeah.
evidentiary basis, because of the fact that the state itself is supposed to be the steward of truth and justice, but has abdicated that role. Now there's just chaos in the streets. And I have stated openly that this is a threat to national security, because it is. If we cannot do criminal investigations, if we can't solve murders that are quite easily solvable because we don't know what's reality and what's not, that's a threat to national security. This is really dangerous for the country. I mean, look what happened. I'm in China now because of this.
Yep.
And it's messing up with great power tensions to two nuclear countries. I mean, this is really serious stuff. We have to, I think, get our shit together. And that's why with all of my communications with federal entities, it's been really like, I mean, I made an accusation a few days ago to the State Department, but it was nothing related to this administration, and it was only based on the evidence, and I was entitled to make these statements because they also aligned with public statements by the Secretary of State. It was not meant to be opportunistic in any sense. It was not meant to interfere in bilateral relations between China and the United States. It was simply just stating the facts. And I have every right to make allegations that are based in fact. But I want to state that I have continually maintained to everybody, all stakeholders, that we simply just need to get back to the root, to the truth. Okay, we got to just stop having your truth and my truth. We cannot politicize murder investigations. This is fucking ridiculous. Right. I mean, like, we can't sit here and have petty drama. And I think the prof, I read one of his essays about the need to have decorum in true crime, But what I think is the deeper issue, aside from, I agree with what he's saying, but I think the deeper issue is there's no fucking decorum even in law enforcement. That's the real issue, because it all starts, you know what I mean?
Right.
If we sit here and fucking politicize intelligence agencies, FBI, and even state and local law enforcement and prosecutorial bodies, we're fucked. Like, true crime is like the last thing we should be worried about. When the state cannot cohabit with truth, it's dead in spirit and soon in letter. That's just a fact. Every government collapses because it cannot absorb reality, when it cannot see itself properly and then reform as a, based on that reflection. So I think that's the main issue.
Yeah. But then how would one fix it? Like, if you see the collapse, how would one go about?
So, that's why I've been using a lot of comparative politics for how to navigate the situation. Sorry, let me get my laptop charger real quick.
Okay.
I looked at the English Civil War, obviously, with John Locke and Thomas Hobbes, and they did not have much success. Unfortunately, England collapsed into civil war, disintegrated, and then had like Cromwell become a Republican, and then the monarchy overthrew him. And all the philosophers at that time were like, bro, the collapse of reason fucked us up. Like, everybody said that.
Yeah.
John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, all the really important people from that time. The Soviet Union was like, they were cooked, and they had so much chaos. That was why Putin came in the Soviet Union, because he was like the only person. And then he basically installed a criminal class. So they really haven't recovered any sort of lasting legitimacy in Russia, which is why they're another totalitarian system. Now, that's not to disparage Russia or the Russian people. Like, I have respect for them, what they're doing, but it's just simply a fact that they've also been under siege for so many years, and because of interference by the United States and the fact that their leadership did not prepare properly for transfer to a new form of government. It was really rough going, and it still is.
Yep.
I think in China, they had during the Cultural Revolution and then the Gang of Four, when Mao Zedong died, when he was using state terrorism against the civilian population during the Red Guards and all that stuff, one leader in history who I'm really inspired by is Deng Xiaoping. And Deng Xiaoping his own son was crippled by the Red Guard. They threw him out of a building. They said he was like a capitalist, imperialist, or whatever, and they threw him out of a building, and now he was crippled. And, even Deng Xiaoping, he just extended grace and said, we got to just get back to it. We got to just stop the nonsense. We got to get back to the truth based in the facts. And that's what he said. So I think that this is a really good lesson. Now, that was a really sensitive issue in China. And when the Gang of Four, after Mao died, his wife and then some other party officials tried to usurp the party. Well, the party had to overthrow him, or overthrow them. I mean, it was like an internal coup.
Wow.
So,
that's crazy.
I think that the United States is on a situation right now where we have like one of three options. We have collapse, which I think is the most likely because of reasons I'll mention. And then there's like revolution, which is like the people are not organized enough to do this. So that's pointless to even discuss. There could be in some kind of internal thing, which people are speculating on with Epstein. I don't know. And then the third one would be authoritarianism. But I don't think that the country is I don't think that our leadership is competent enough to actually implement the kind of regime they want. So I don't even think that that's possible. But that's why I'm building NKTAP, because it's like no matter what happens, we need to have a civic institution there to take. I'm not going to say take over. I'm not talking about any hostile action, but I'm stabilize the fucking situation and say, listen, guys, we got to root ourselves in the reality of the situation. We got to get back to the truth through the facts. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why if I'm able to do anything at a national scale, I would encourage people to do the same thing. Essentially, just civic engagement. Like, hey, guys, so maybe your community is going all right. Ours is personally not. And if you have a similar pattern to ours, maybe here's what you can try. Et cetera.
Yeah. Because like you might as well just try everything. See what sticks.
I think if there's going to be a national collapse, and again, which I think is, I'm not the only one saying this, it's imperative for local communities to insulate themselves,
When you say a national collapse, what are you saying exactly?
For the federal government to like abdicate.
They do that.
So our legal system, the federal government, most people don't realize has, I don't want to say less control than people realize, but they intervene far less than people imagine. The federal government is not independent. It needs clear reason, compelling national interest to intervene in a situation. And rarely does it ever take on a large issue because of the principle of, prudence. Federal courts, the FBI does not generally do investigations on its own. It partners with local or state law enforcement.
Yeah.
They do this not to undermine the legitimacy of the state. So the thing is with the crazy situation at the federal level, if states have to take on an even bigger role because the federal government collapses because the Trump administration is gutting agencies and gutting competent staff, people start ignoring dictates from the Trump administration because they just don't even agree with the logic being expressed. They find it to be nonsensical. States and even local municipalities will have to take over. In fact, when the Trump administration, there was a ruling about Minneapolis they were under a consent decree by federal law enforcement. Essentially, with the George Floyd situation, Minneapolis was found to be violating civil rights so badly that the federal government was taking control of their law enforcement. The same thing happened in Louisville, Kentucky with Breonna Taylor. They found systematic violations of civil rights. Consent decree was in place to make sure that they implemented the Constitution. The Trump administration got rid of that. So what happened? The city of Louisville and the city of Minneapolis had to implement it themselves. They said, we will still do the terms of the decree, even though the federal government has abdicated. With the U.S. government's trade policy, which is fucking ridiculous. Many people are saying this. Jeffrey Sachs has said it. But there was another thing I saw. The state of Hawaii went to Guangdong province in China by itself. So we have a state going to China and engaging in international diplomacy and international trade by itself, trying to score deals in Guangdong. That shows you this is like what happened at the end of the Qing dynasty in China when the local municipalities just stopped taking orders. They're just like,
wow,
respect this. So
okay,
happen more and more. And so my argument is, if the legal system in your community collapses, you need to create a counter model. You need to do your own investigations. You form your own citizens intelligence agency. You need to teach people how to report facts, like the media, etc. And that's what we're doing in Northern Kentucky. We are creating a counter legitimacy because the legitimacy of the local government is non-existent. We are creating a counter legitimacy. We're not trying to say we are the state. We are saying the state no longer exists, in effect.
Yeah. Jeez. Oh my God. Well, I think a lot of people would say, well, look at how like all these other countries turned out, and you don't want to end up like those countries, kind of thing. But
well, it's not about trying to be like anyone else. It's just trying to use precedent to understand how to navigate the situation. Because I think that clearly the case that in Northern Kentucky, the situation is totally unstable.
Yeah, completely.
Like it cannot continue like that.
Right.
And also broadly in Kentucky in general, I think that that's probably also going to come out. But that's why we have the First Amendment in the first place: freedom of organization, freedom of speech, right to petition the government for redress. That the whole point of that is to create an opportunity for people to change the government, because the idea in America is that the government should be accountable to the people. That's like the founding principle that we have. So based on this logic, we are simply creating an organization to do our own investigations, to maintain legitimacy, because like when all this comes out, it's going to be pandemonium, I think. But that's why we be there and say, hey, listen, don't worry. We're already here. We don't want you to do violence in our name. We're cool. We just want things to work. I think of it like a math equation sometimes with the law. It's like you get a certain level, a threshold of evidence, you present it to the authorities, and then when you do that, they should render justice based on that. They're not able to do that. They're not using their own operating logic. They're not using the law. They are engaging in politics. They're protecting someone or some interest. When that happens, people need to, basically exhume justice on their own terms, and that's what we're doing essentially. And I think I was making a good point here that law enforcement and prosecutors bend the rules and form the evidence to fit their case. Totally override the agreement between you. So that is the case, and I've seen that happen numerous times. Like they have, like in Northern Kentucky, it's like with my uncle's case. Yeah, they went after my uncle really hard, but like they didn't go after any of the other potential suspects or even disclose many of the other facts because it implicated the state itself. Yeah. So probably the discussion they had, I don't know what it was. There was a discussion. I was told in writing that there was a discussion. I would like to know what that discussion was, but I do not know. But based on what I'm seeing, I think that the discussion was, okay, we could disclose these facts to the public, but it would ruin stability. Well, when the stability in question is corruption, this is an illegitimate decision. In fact, I would argue that it's a criminal decision. I would say it's obstruction of justice because the public has a right to know, for example, that my uncle's father was a high-level FOP member. That has direct implications for what she said. Commonwealth's attorney Michelle Snodgrass said about my uncle's 13-year-old victim, I don't know if law enforcement knew at the time. That's a lie because they did, and they had evidence to the contrary. When you make a false statement like that to the public, it makes people lose trust in civic institutions, and let me put it like this. That's a threat to national security because it delegitimizes the state, okay? Yeah. When you delegitimize public institutions, you create a threat to national security because people stop believing in the state. Because when it all comes out later, as it always does, and when it comes all out at once, then it causes a complete utter collapse of trust. And when people don't
Yeah.
trust the government anymore, that's very dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh, I think, you know, people need to be informed of what's going on though too. Like a lot of people don't even know that a lot of this stuff is going on. And it needs to be accessible and easy to understand. And I think that's where Indiana really messes up. They don't have any good, media per se. Um,
There's actually a few journalists that I integrity tested up there in Indiana. One of them used to live in Cincinnati. He was a reporter in Cincinnati, and I'll be disclosing some of our conversations in my book.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's good though. I mean, if you found some good people up there.
Well, what
But
was that? Point was that he was not doing his job properly.
oh, okay. Well, then
I
yay.
think that the issue again is that this is all unconscious. Like when you have like I have had so many people privately, like police officers and commissioners of various agencies and victims advocates and so on. Like nobody ever disputes the facts of what I'm saying. They just some of them have even said, "Oh, that's scary. I don't want to know." It's like, okay, what the fuck? Like you're a fucking police officer, dude.
Mm-hmm.
When you see that pattern so many times, it's like, okay, well, everybody essentially knows it's true, but they don't feel like they can do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you know corruption is systemic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, actually, this is an interesting thing. I was talking to a friend of mine from Northern Kentucky who's working in education field, and they told me about the etymology of the word corruption. It means to break together, like corrupt,
Mm-hmm.
with,
Mm-hmm.
to break. Corruption is when it breaks together. So when you have systems of power and media and so on all failing together, that's
Mm-hmm.
corrupt.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've come to understand that corruption is not like, oh, I'm going to just like take a little bit off the top here or there. Like, no, corruption is like when the entire system stops working because everybody's so entrenched in their own lives.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but like this always gets caught. I've had people on Reddit they're like, there's no way that's true. If that was true, somebody would report it. And I was like, here's me reporting it. No, not like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, right?
Give me the truth the way that I want it. And
That's
then
so funny.
they're like, this is really funny too, because it's like everything I'm saying gets proven correct. I'm like, I remember I said like last month, I was like, dude, the media is like just not telling the truth. A month later, the thing in Cincinnati happens. The media didn't tell the truth. And everybody's like, everybody's bad mouthing the media now, WCPO especially. Oh, why didn't they tell the truth? Why didn't Cincinnati media tell the truth? And I'm like, I fucking said that last month that they're not telling the truth. I was called a conspiracy theorist. And now because it has to do with racial hatred, everybody's jumping on it. They're announcing like, oh, hell yeah, we got to go after black people. By the way, on that note, we had a fucking terrorist arrested like a few hours ago in Cincinnati or in Dayton, Ohio. There was a guy who said he was going to kill 30,000 black people in Cincinnati. And
What?
he got arrested by FBI counterterror a couple hours ago.
How did he think he was going to kill 30,000 people?
On X. He just said some shit. He's going to kill 30,000 people. He posted it on fucking X. Imagine how stupid. But like, yeah, no, this has really serious implications. Like,
yeah,
all this. So, you were mentioning like why the media isn't doing its job and stuff. I don't think like nobody knows what the fuck to do. Like it's all pandemonium. Like,
yeah,
people don't realize this. Illusion. Order is an illusion, and most people in America are still living in this illusion in their mind. There's order. That, like, if you go under the hood, there's not, dude. There's fucking not. Like if you're somebody right now in the intelligence community, if you're a person in the law enforcement community, or if you're a journalist doing some shit like me, like you see, like there's no one behind the fucking wheel right now.
Right. Yeah, and it's terrifying.
Total fucking anarchy. And so, like, that's kind of why I'm trying to rein it back in. Like, guys, actual order is not about tightening the iron fist on people you don't like. Actual order is like we can agree on what's fucking real.
Yeah, that would be a nice start, But
there's a lot of unconscious stuff that happens here. I mentioned it in my last Substack piece. There's
Mm-hmm.
basically unconscious reflexes towards repression and projection and so on. So, that's a tough nut to crack. Like, I've noticed in a lot of my interactions with the public and especially the mob online, it's like what I see is basically people putting their hands in their ears and say, la, 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 I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
But that's like the go-to like defense on most things. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. The projection of whatever you're doing, like I think wokeism has gotten weaponized to a point of like, oh, you're attacking me and my safety. And it's built off of like real issues that real people had, but they're now weaponizing it too. So it's like, you know, always games. Lots of games going on.
I think that's the case across the entire political spectrum, though. I mean, it's not just people who are liberals. It's like
Yeah.
everybody. And
Yeah, the semantics,
right.
it's always like the victimization. Like as soon as you can make yourself a victim, you can put somebody on the back foot of like, oh, okay, well, no, I didn't mean that, like, backpedaling or whatever, because everybody's so afraid to offend each other. But it's like, it was funny because when I got doxxed, it was like, yeah, I'd rather have you call me cunt and bitch all day long, than have you dox me. Like it's kind of easy. And but people are like, "Oh, you called me out because there's always just these little things that people can dig at, and it's not real. It's all a game. It's all a facade. We're not really in reality. We are living in the Matrix or something."
Like, yeah. So this is always happening in the civic arena. Like people are just like hallucinating.
Yeah.
Like basically people, project motive onto you, even though there's no evidence. Like you're doing this because like this Adam Keller guy I'm following in Cincinnati, he says people hate me because I want Cincinnati to be better and I hate corruption. And I'm just like, is that why people hate you? Like, really?
Yeah.
Is that really why people hate you, Mr. Keller? Or is it because you're an asshole?
Yeah, could be that. Could be
Like
that.
people say like, oh, Brad, you want this, you want money, you want family. I'm like, I want to fucking live, dude. How about that?
Yeah.
Right there. But they speculate all these motives, and it's like none of this has any material basis whatsoever. But like, I think that this is to be expected. This is how people behave. The problem was when that becomes embedded in the fucking legal system.
Yeah.
In other words, when you are in a criminal investigation or a criminal prosecution trial, whatever, or you're trying to get a protection order. Let's say you're a woman, right? Your husband is controlling and angry, and he's like, "I'll fucking kill you, bitch," blah, blah, and he's got a gun. And the judge is like, his lawyer goes there and says, well, here's a text of her saying she wants some money. Well, what's the reason behind her asking for money? Maybe she doesn't work. She's a stay-at-home mom and she needs some groceries. This judge then is going to project his own shit onto that question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that bitch fucking money or whatever. Like, I don't fucking know, but that could be a thing. It's all ideological projection, right? Let's say. And then that woman dies because this fucking creep kills her because this judge just hallucinated whatever the fuck onto this innocuous question.
Yeah.
Like, this is the epistemic breakdown of law, and judges are just like, oh, I don't know. Like, I have been in courtrooms and stuff where judges just believe the most ridiculous shit. Or lawyers, when they're cross-examining, they are being very disingenuous in their line of questionings. And then we get like this absolutely ridiculous rulings, and like there's no like Aristotelian logical syllogisms. There's no standards of evidence. I mean, when I tried to get the protection order against my father, who is a fucking murderer, they allowed an expunged court record to sway the judge's decision, which is like flagrantly illegal. And then they just made a bunch of false statements and perjured themselves to slander me in court. And then the judge is like, this is a good person. Okay, well, guess what? He's about to go to fucking prison for murder. How are you going to feel after calling that person a good man? You know what I mean? Like, what you notice in all of these systems that are corrupt, authoritarian, whatever, it's like people are willing to just fucking destroy their entire lives for no reason at all. This judge,
Yes.
man, like his entire legacy, everything he's ever done to his life at that point is just cooked because of that really dumbass decision. And not even for like some grand ideological point or something like this. Now, he did give a speech at the end of the EPO which is hilarious. And when this gets leaked, and I hope it does, when it comes out, it will be hilarious, actually, because his entire life is ruined now. Nobody will ever look at what he's done for how, I think, 60 some years he practiced. They won't look at like what he did. They'll just care about how dumb that was.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
look at a guy who fucking killed people and said he's a good person with no evidentiary basis. Why are you sitting here making moral statements about a person that you don't even know? You know what I mean?
It's weird.
Like,
it's weird.
it's like that's the
yeah.
problem. People jump to conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just the general public. That is like to be expected. When fucking judges and prosecuting attorneys and lawyers like do that shit, that's dangerous. That's a national security threat. We cannot have people doing that.
Well, and like one of the lawyers that was trying to basically insert himself into the appellate, I don't know, like process for Rick Allen. He's a habeas attorney, but he was not an official member of Rick Allen's team. And hi guys, hello everybody coming in. If you guys have any questions for Brad, I think you probably have to get going soonish. But
that's cool. I can stick around.
Okay, cool. But anyway, this guy was like calling a bunch of people who had facts on their side liars. And he's ultimately hurting himself in the long run for lying about other people lying. It's like, why would you do this if you're an esteemed habeas attorney that worked at a university as a professor? Why are you coming in and lying when you know there are going to be receipts later? And
right.
People are okay with that because they just don't. I don't know what it is. If you're on the internet, do you not feel like it's reality? Like, is it the monopoly money thing? You know what I'm saying? Where it's like it's
not real.
It's fake. Yeah. Sorry, my cats are like jumping on shit. Get down. Get down. Oh my god, he's not gonna listen to me. But yeah, so.
No, I agree with that. It's like people see in my career as a journalist and also as a columnist, everything I do, like I have a mind for posterity. I'm like, how will this look when I'm dead?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, how will this stand up?
Yeah.
I've always thought of that. And when I'm now putting my memoir together, I'm like, I was writing notes to myself in the future when I was like 16. You know what I mean? Like, I've had really uncanny accuracy in terms of everything I predicted. Like, and I think that I'm very proud of that. You know, I'm really proud of the analysis I've done as a columnist. People say, oh, you wrote for Chinese state media, you're a crank. I'm like, well, I've been right. You know what I mean? Like, so fuck yourself. You can sit here and do guilt by association. It doesn't matter. And apparently this has, well, I'll talk about that another time, but my work has always drawn the attention of U.S. intelligence for a reason. You know, they don't do that because of some crank. They do that from somebody who actually, got some sway. All right. So I've never been one to talk to the crowd. I've always talked to power, challenged power, and I think that's also why the work that I'm doing now is being tracked by official channels.
Yeah.
I don't take this as a threat. I take it as a sign of recognition. And I always, try to manage things for posterity, but that's kind of what I think is the power of the enduring power of truth. It's like truth is truth, and truth is always truth. Truth will be truth now. Truth will be truth in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But we, like you said, we have legal professionals who just don't care.
Right, they don't.
Fundamentally, the problem. I'll be releasing some evidence. I mean, I investigated so many lawyers in Northern Kentucky. When I say investigated, I mean I basically just did like counterintelligence. I mean, I called them, I recorded them, saw what they said, and if it was stupid, I was like, okay, well, this will be really interesting later, when it all comes out. But if I had lawyers, I would say, hey, my name is Bradley Blankenship. Here's what I'm investigating. Here's the deal, and they'd be like, I highly doubt that, and I'd be like,
what?
This decision without examining evidence.
Yeah,
I'm just going with my gut here. I'm just going with my gut instincts. And I'm like, so your gut instincts are better than evidence and facts. And you call yourself a lawyer. Is that what you're telling me? And we go on and on and on. And it's like talking to a brick wall. So I'm like, all right, whatever, dude. I'm going to record this phone call and it'll be used later. Like, because again, people are going to ask, they're like, how did this happen? I will be like, I will tell you step for step, institution by institution, individual by individual, how it all happened. Like I said, as soon as I saw everything happening last year around me, I started to investigate my father, and then I just saw the corruption and the breaking together, everyone failing together. I was like, all right, it is now my job to preserve the historical record against revisionism, and so that way people can know the full truth. That was my entire thing. I was like, I just got to survive. I got to collect the facts, and then when people ask, where were the lawyers? Where were the journalists? Where were the police? Where were the prosecutors? Where was federal law enforcement? Blah, blah, blah. I'll be like, here's your answer. I can tell you for a matter of fact, this is what happened. I decentralized the evidence because, with Epstein and all that shit, like, how people are. The state tried to bury it, and I was like, I'm not going to let them do that. I will make sure before I ever approach the federal apparatus, the evidence is somewhere they will never find.
Yeah, that's good.
So when people ask, this is a crazy story, I'll admit, but when everybody asks, how did it happen? You will have the full unredacted version as it happens. They cannot know this, and it's going to be really, well grounded, and it speaks to the moment. Like I said, it is not simply legal. It is not simply political or moral. It is epistemic. At the fundamental root of what is happening in this moment in American history is that we cannot agree on what's real.
Yeah, that's actually very eye-opening. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
If all the people, by the way, who are harassing me and stuff, like, just simply stopped and just chilled the fuck out and just had a conversation, it's like it would be a lot easier for this community. By the way, in terms of the true crime community, I never had any intention of stepping into this space. I simply came here because I'm an investigator and the facts led me here.
Right.
And people are trying to project, like you said, a bunch of crap on me. They're going into my history. What is this guy? They found like a newspaper article in the Courier Journal that I wrote like when I was 19 about how I used to struggle with heroin addiction. It's like, oh, see, he's a fucking junkie. It's like, dude, like that was 10 years ago. I was living in Northern Kentucky. This does not mean anything. What it means is that it's this confirmation bias. You don't want to believe me. You found something that says I don't need to believe him, and now you have confirmed your bias. That is not evidentiary standard that can be used in any serious discussion of journalism or law. You know what I mean? So it's like if we just talked, and like virtually every civilization that's ever gone through a collapse, their leaders post-collapse are always like, we need to just be serious and have conversations. Like, so that's kind of like, I'm already like post-collapse, my mentality. I'm already like, hey, if you guys want to sit here and just like do that crap, like I'm cool, like to just like, engage when we can, but like for the most part, I just don't find this to be serious, worth my time. And so like that's I'm trying to model this behavior right now to CIA and to other stakeholders. I'm not here to cause problems or disrupt diplomatic relations or even interfere in any way in national security, but like I'm just here to like present the facts.
Yeah, no, thank God, because everything has a spin anymore.
True crime and true grime.
Yeah, and I was like, yes, true.
Yeah, like on that true grime stuff, it's like, I think what we can see in Northern Kentucky, like with the whole Stevens case, one of the things that I see is really the main error. It's like Detective Cox, he's a good guy probably to some degree. I don't know the guy personally, but he seems like a nice guy. And when I see his face post-exposure, he looks like somebody who knows like his life is over as he knew it before. Like he looks afraid. When somebody's actually afraid from exposure, it means they have a conscience to some degree. And I pity him for that. But the fact is that there's an epistemic breakdown in his agency. They are not able to even, like, the reason like they couldn't go after my father, they didn't have the data. Why didn't they have the data? Because their officers were fudging all reports that came from our house during that time, because like he's their friend. So, you can't even get the data to solve the crime if you're not getting good intelligence. You're not getting good intelligence when your officers don't understand how to conduct an investigation. You can't conduct an investigation when you're politicizing them. You know what I mean? So it all like stems from that. Now, there's a downstream effect from that I mentioned in one of my reports on my Substack, but like then you have true crime people like Melissa Morgan who are friends with him apparently. And I had several discussions with her via email, and she said, vis-a-vis Stephenson's and Delphi connection, she said there is no connection between them. Fair enough that you believe that, but that you cannot state this as a fact. You can only attribute that. Like, this is why I think that we need to have like not these kind of people owning the information space, not sleuths. We need journalists and people who are serious to say the police said there's no connection. That has to be attributed to someone, to the police, somebody official. Okay. Well, now the question, all right, they said that, but is it true? You know what I mean? But she takes the police's narrative and states it as a matter of fact, when in fact this is up for debate. We don't know if that's true or not until we examine the facts, because that department cannot be trusted. They killed people and they have buried murders. So now their entire legitimacy and claim to reality is now forfeit. They are not a legitimate governing entity. We should not trust what they say at face value. We should question that what they say. In fact, we as American people should always question power. That is the basis of our national identity. But when you have people in the crime community who take the narrative of the state and say this is a fact, you're not serious. If you're not willing to, at least attribute information properly, you're not a serious person. So I challenged her in one of my conversations with her about that.
Good.
I even sent her my fucking report, and I did the math, and she's like, "Oh, I think I know who it is too." I'm like, "I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what the fucking numbers show. If you want to sit here and politicize mathematics, like, okay, like, all right, dude, it's like terminally unserious." And this is the shit that like this is what's actually harming real people, because I am an actual victim. Okay, not speculation. I am really a victim. I am actually in danger. And when I got people sitting here trying to fucking politicize my life and my existence and my reality, putting me in direct physical harm, like, you're basically engaging in terrorism for the state. And this is, I want to say, this is not a new thing. That is called gray zone operations in international law. Like, this is counterinsurgency through proxies. In other words, the state, just like what's happening from what I can tell, I won't state this as a matter of fact. I will state what it appears to be based on the evidence. It appears that Detective Cox is spreading disinformation through sleuths and using it to intimidate people through plausible deniability. He's saying, oh, well, mental illness, whatever, fucking China, terrorism, and then putting that out there to people who are unvetted, and then they're spreading it amongst themselves and justifying their attacks on people like me. This is a well-noted practice in counterinsurgency, and it is a form of state terrorism. And that's what I will be definitely alleging that if it continues, because it's bullshit. They should not be doing this. They're abusing their public office and their state institutions to intimidate people who are simply just saying, listen, like, you've been sitting on evidence of a murder for 10 months and you haven't resolved it and you're walking away. That's a crime. That's a federal crime.
Yeah.
And it's a really serious one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just a crime against, the community. It's like, I would say it's a crime against God. I mean, this is like blasphemy, man.
Yeah.
Put yourself in a detective and you can't even resolve the case that you swore you would before retiring. You know what I mean? I think he should be ashamed of himself if that's in fact what he's doing, as it appears it is.
Well, maybe when he said that, he really believed it. But it doesn't change it.
Well, there's a lot to be said about that. Well, there was a comment before that. Somebody posted about a statement and a fact.
Yeah.
First public press yet release. It's only alleged by the police. Right. This is the thing. It's only like when the police are found to be criminals themselves, we cannot trust what they're saying. You know what I mean?
Ever.
We're politicizing matters of law and law enforcement. This is wrong. Extremely wrong. So, that's like, for me as a journalist, like, and I want to say, a lot of people are like taking issues with my public facing work because I was a columnist, but like, that's not what my reporting is. I've reported for news wires where my name is not on the reports, and news wires have a very high standard of reportage. Like, you have to be very precise with your language and so on. So like, people pretty much are never going to see my reports because I've written for news wires where my name is not attached to them. But like, I am a reporter. Like, this is what I've been doing for a long time, and I know how this works. Like, you have to attribute information all the time. And it drives me crazy because, like, it has direct consequences for human life. Like, I'm actively being put in danger because people just play fast and loose with factual or misinformation,
Yep. Well, and it's so purposeful most of the time.
Well, somebody's got a clear interest in it. Yeah.
Definitely.
It furthers a criminal agenda, which I think for law enforcement agencies is unforgivable to do that stuff.
It is. They're supposed to be able to protect people, but
that's the whole reason
they contribute to it,
Justice delayed, justice denied. Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, Lord, I could sit here and talk about all the years of my life that's been wasted because of how fucking corrupt the American justice system is, but I think it's not particularly healthy to mull about these things. But I do agree. Yeah. I think that one of the saddest parts is that, I talked to the Stephenson family about this whole situation, and I saw just profound cognitive dissonance. I mean, it's like, I told them what happened, and they said, well, we trust the detectives. And I was like, but I'm not there to convince them or to push them because this is very traumatic,
Yeah.
When you tell somebody that their entire life and everything they trust is a lie, it's like really traumatic. You know what I mean? So I am not going to sit here and induce a lot of psychological stress on a grieving family. I am simply going to state what I know to be true, and then I'm going to leave it at that. You can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
So I think that's very sad. That's a whole other dimension to the tragedy here, is the fact that they are keeping a grieving family within a lie to protect themselves because they have, they feel no responsibility to the truth and to the victims. I think that it's very sad. They certainly feel no obligation to me. In fact, they are spreading very insightful rumors against me, which people are now using as a justification to dehumanize me and threaten my life. So I find this, again, to be a form of state terrorism. And if it's, I keep reiterating that if it is not resolved, I will make these allegations formally against the federal government.
Yeah.
Because they are responsible for this. They have it, not some kind of abstract moral thing. They have a legal bound duty to defend my life.
Yeah, they do.
For political reasons, because they happen to dislike my political beliefs, then, they're no longer a constitutional republic. In America, as we tell ourselves, we do not kill people for their political beliefs. We do not kill people without due process. And we don't do so without any legal justification. In other words, we don't do it for political crimes. So, that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair. That's true. All of that is true. Did they properly investigate the Stephenson's family though?
Who?
Cox. Did he look into like Beth Stephenson and the kids?
We'll learn all of this later, but they must have done this. Yeah.
Why? Like,
What do you mean, why?
do you really think that they did a good enough job investigating them? Because
You mean investigating the families for some type of criminal conspiracy? Or
yes.
yeah, I don't know. I would imagine that they have looked into them regarding this because apparently, what the grandson or something was involved in a murder.
The nephew,
Nephew, the nephew.
Charles,
Well, yeah,
Charles Stevenson. Yep.
Charles was involved in murder in Indiana. They were
Mm-hmm.
looking at him. Yeah, I would. If he was even a person of interest, or even a suspect at all, I think that they would have definitely looked into everything around him. You know, but I don't know. I don't really. I have one contact in that family. They're apparently a very large family. I have one contact tangentially in that family. I will not disclose that contact, but yeah, they've got some ties to the community. I'll say
Yeah.
they're fixtures. They're
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, that's kind of how the Patties are too. The Patties and the Germans up in Indiana. So it's just interesting patterns and
But
stuff.
I can't speculate on that. I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
I'm not
don't. That's
about it.
fine.
I don't know anything about that. I
Yeah.
just know they're respected members of the community, not only the victims but the whole community. I mean, like the family is well entrenched in the community.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, all very interesting. And yeah, we didn't get too many questions, but was there anything that you wanted to discuss that maybe wasn't asked?
Um, no. What's going on? Um, no, not really. I mean, just for anybody watching, if you guys want to follow my Substack and
Yes,
even
definitely, guys.
you can contact me privately. You can email my Substack email. Pretty good at replying. I welcome like any leads in anything or even just like anything that could help
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Let me see if I can share your copy link. Let's try this. Okay. Yeah, that will at least take you to one of your articles. So yeah, please subscribe to him, guys. Um,
give me a sub. Yeah,
yeah.
we got federal entities and also what appears to be organized crime. Looking at my Substack, so if you want some really cool shit,
Mm-hmm.
apparently
Yeah.
is people are taking interest in it now. So I'd say subscribe.
Mhm.
That's my sales pitch. CIA is collecting my Substack for archives.
It's
So
wild times, guys. It's wild times, and
we get a
he's in the
first
middle of it.
into a really crazy situation. Check it out.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brad. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for your time. And I hope you have a great party.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Stay in
I'll talk
touch.
to you later. Okay. Bye. Okay, guys.